Okay, guys, so it's now Thursday, February 20th. I'm 4 days away from moving to upstate New York, and we finally got the last piece for the 8N. So today's goal, get it put in, get the hood with the fuel tank back on it, get the fuel line hooked back up, get some fuel in it, and see if she'll fire right up. Hopefully she will. I really don't want to have to tow it back onto the trailer. Because after today, I'm out of time. I got to get this thing loaded up tomorrow and ready to rock and roll for first thing Sunday morning. So unfortunately, after today, we're out of time. So let's get into it. All right, guys. So just gonna pull our old distributor out of here. Got our new distributor here. And based on where our old one, and then comparing it to our old one where our mark was, should be right about there. So now what I'll do is I'll tighten that holder up just a little bit to keep it still but loose enough to where we can still spin it. So that when we go to start the tractor up, if the timing sounds off, I can still adjust it by hand left and right a little bit. Alright, that's our old cap out of there. Then the last thing we got to do for the distributor is we have to hook this ground wire up to it. But for that thing to even be relatively close, that's really going to throw our timing off quite a bit here. I'm not a huge fan of that. So what I'll do is I'll actually lower the cord. And remember, guys, this isn't necessarily a DIY channel. This is how I'm doing it channel. So if this doesn't work for you, I'm sorry, but that's what I'm doing. You know, and apparently somewhere along the way, I managed to lose my 8mm socket. It's probably hard for you guys to tell, but the garage is honestly kind of a disaster right now. And a lot of that is because there's boxes stacked up over here in this corner, and it's got a lot of things slowly getting packed up and ready for this move. So alright, now we got our distributor on there. I don't think our timing's going to be right, so we'll have to play with that a little bit. We'll see. And then now what we got to do is we got to get the fuel tank back on here and get our fuel line hooked back up. Okay guys, unfortunately I couldn't get the flare nut ends for a fuel line, so I had to go get a new piece. Of course, the only piece they had that was long enough is like almost 10 inches too long, and the only smaller piece they had would have been probably about 2 inches too short. So we're just gonna cut this, reflare it, and then install it on the tractor. Luckily, I have 2 different flaring kits, so we'll cut our tubing. I did put it on the tractor and kind of mark it out to give us a better idea of how long of a piece we actually need. Cutting it a little long just in case this flare doesn't come out too good. We have enough material to work with to put another flare on it. So we'll cut our piece off. Okay guys, we got our piece cut down the length. Now I'm going to take the deburring tool, clean the inside of our tube out. Then we're going to put our tube in our clamp here. This is 1/4 inch tubing. So we'll go down here to 1/4 inch. Now what you want to do is you want to put as much of the tube sticking through as there is on the height of your adapter. We're good there. Put our adapter piece in, take our actual clamp piece. Just get it on there for right now, and then we want to clamp our piece of tubing in, make sure it's good and tight, and then slowly but surely start tightening this piece. I have noticed with this particular flaring tool that sometimes it doesn't always make a full flare on the first time, so sometimes you have to push a little more of the tube through. However, yeah, we're almost there, so I'm going to give ourselves a little bit more tube through. Uh-oh, what did I do with our... Put our adapter back in, put our clamp vice piece back on, clamp our tube back in here, nice and tight. Alright guys, it's not pretty, but for what we're doing, should work pretty well. So let's go ahead and get this in the tractor. Alright guys, now that we got our new piece of tubing, let's go ahead and get this plumbed up into here. Again, this might take some shaping, guys, because again, this is a new fuel line, so it might take some tweaking and playing around with it. Okay, so now we got both ends started. I'll grab the actual wrench and get those tightened up. Okay guys, we're to the point. I should be able to put some fresh gas in it and try to fire it up. I did couple things off camera you guys didn't get to see is I put some radiator fluid in it. I only put in a little bit, just enough to circulate through the system so that tractor doesn't overheat. And I also refilled our oil bath for our air filter system. And I hooked up our positive terminal for our battery. So now we should be able to just throw some gas in it, see if she fires up, and if so, then we'll finish bolting up the hood and we'll call it done. Put enough in it to make it so that our bowl fills, and I can see if our fuel line is leaking anywhere. And so far so good. It appears our flare is holding up and isn't leaking like a sieve, so that's good news. Our bowl isn't leaking. Alright, let's put a little bit more gas in it and then give this baby a shot. Alright, so that's probably about 2 gallons. That's all I want to put in it for now, because if I have to pull that hood back off, I don't feel like fighting the extra weight. Alright. See what she's got. Put our clutch in. Little throttle. Pull our choke. Make sure she's out of gear. Might help if we turn our ignition on. Well, sounds like we have an issue with our starter. Sounds like our starter is not engaging. I was afraid of that. Let's give it a couple taps, see what that does. Maybe. Well, this is not looking good. Alright guys, so I'm going to pull the starter real quick and see if I can't bench test it. You know guys, unfortunately sometimes you just kind of have to claim defeat, and unfortunately right now the 8N has beat me. I got our starter off and it does need to be rebuilt. It's extremely dirty. It looks like there's some issues with some of the areas where it connects and such. Unfortunately, to take the starter out of this tractor, you have to remove the oil filter housing. And at first I wasn't too concerned about that. but I noticed that one of the two bolts that actually holds it to the engine block, one of the bolts was snapped off into the block. And I didn't think too much of that. Just figured whoever put it back on last time it came off probably just cranked it too tight and snapped the bolt off. No big deal. When I say I barely touched the other bolt with my wrench, I literally mean I put my wrench on the bolt and turned maybe a quarter, not even a quarter, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, and snap. So now both of the bolts that retain the oil filter housing to this tractor are snapped off in the block. What I would probably do if I had a lot more time is I would take my welder, I would take a nut, stick that nut just over that bolt, weld the nut to that bolt, and then get it out. But like I said, guys, I'm moving in literally 3 days. So unfortunately, I'm just gonna bolt the hood back on, put all the other parts in a box. I'm gonna load my 8N onto my trailer, and unfortunately it's gonna be going to my dad as a non-running tractor. It's super defeating. This is not what I wanted to give him. But unfortunately, guys, when you're working on stuff this old, things like this happen. Who knows? Maybe he won't touch it till the next time I'm home, and him and I can finish putting it back together and film that and get that put up for you guys. But don't worry, we have more tractor content in the making as we speak, and honestly, it's not going to be very different. So we're gonna have to find some other stuff to put in between so you guys don't get bored and get tired of me talking about Ford tractors. But hey guys, so you just watched me say that sometimes you have to claim defeat. I've decided I'm not doing that. So what you probably don't realize is what you just watched happened about almost 3 weeks ago. Today is Sunday, March 16th. And as you can see, the 8N is right behind me. Had a conversation with my dad, and we decided not to do the tractor swap. I'm gonna hold on to the 8N until I get it into a running, functioning machine. What that entails is a lot more work than what it sounds. Right now, I gotta get the starter rebuilt. We gotta get those snap bolts out of the block for the oil filter housing. The other thing I have to do is I have to do what's called splitting the tractor. So pretty much what I'm gonna have to do is undo the transmission housing bolts, which on these tractors, the engine, the transmission, and the rear end is all bolted together and makes up the actual frame of this tractor. What's nice about that is it's actually easy to split it apart. What's hard about that is you have to be able to support all that weight on both sides. So we'll have to get a little sketchy with some cribbing to be able to support the rear end and to support the front end. And then what we're also going to do is, while we have the tractor split, and the whole reason why I'm doing it is after further examination of the flywheel, the actual gears, the teeth on them, there's not a lot of them missing, but there's definitely a lot more wear and tear than I like on it. So unfortunately, I feel if we're going this far into it, I might as well split the tractor, replace that ring gear, and put it back together. So that's where we're at. However, you probably noticed I'm in a different garage. So like I've said before, I had to move, and I'm in my new garage, which I'll give you guys a quick little 360 of. May not look like it, but we actually have more space in this garage than we did in the previous one. But what you might have noticed is we were doing that 360. There's some major components missing to this garage. One being, there's no outlets other than the one for the garage door. So in next week's video, you'll actually see me show you guys how I go about installing boxes, receptacles, wiring, and getting that all set up. I did pick up some 20 amp receptacles so that I can actually plug in the power strip that comes with my toolbox, and then also to run our Miller welder off of. They can run off of a 15 amp, but it's recommended to be on a 20 amp. It just performs better. So that'll be next week's video. Give us a little bit of a break from the 8N here. So we're not forgetting about it. It's probably just going to be a month or two before you guys start seeing videos on it again. But I appreciate you guys that have subscribed. By the time I made this video, there's 28 of you. I think in about a month, I think we're doing really good. I'd like to hit that 50 mark. And I think I might do something a little crazy when we do. I'm thinking I might try to actually come up with a better logo for the page and get some hats made. Gonna only start out with a small quantity. I'll have to figure out how to ship them to you guys, but I will figure out how to get them listed up for sale, and I'll have to figure out a price point for that. But I'm thinking when we hit those 50 subscribers, we're gonna start small. We're gonna start with hats. Maybe eventually we'll get into some t-shirts and some sweatshirts and such. But you guys probably noticed I like to wear hats, so I think it'd be pretty cool to have my own hat. But hey, if you guys have stuck around for this much of the video, I really appreciate you guys. Again, I think 28 subscribers in a month is absolutely phenomenal. But again, if you haven't subscribed, if you want to, great. If you don't, maybe just go hit that like button for me. Hitting that like button does a lot for the channel. It plays with the YouTube algorithm, helps us get seen more. So again, thank you guys for now. Again, my name's Cam. This is Guy in His Garage, and I'll see you guys later.